the final piece. Okay. So here are the final 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this is the final setup we have. When you're framing the video, you can try to frame until this part of Maharaj, until the hand part of the Maharaj when he was speaking. And it's preferable, you see the mic is in the left side of Maharaj, and actually camera is on the right side. So the advantage of this setup is like when Maharaj is speaking into the microphone, right? So still the Maharaj face is still visible in a clear view. Camera has a clear view of Maharaj's face. Okay. But if you put the camera and they're both the same side, it is you might the camera view can be blocked by the microphone. Okay. So that's pretty much it. This is the chair, this is the microphone, and then the sound system. That's it. I cannot do anything now. It's already, I cannot change the link. I only have to edit it later.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, we'll be sitting here. Mataji will be sitting here.
How to mute this? Oh, mute stereo. Okay. Petra will be sitting here. The audio microphone is picking up nicely. Okay. Ready? It's not coming. It's a big difference. And this lens is low. And you want to do Kirtan? You will not start doing Kirtan.
Jana Yamanatira Bana Chadi Jamunatira Vanam Dadi Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hadi Madhava Punjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hadi Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajanaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachadi Yamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayom Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. There are other evening classes I had to do, because there were children, I had to do a whole Who is Lord Brahma session. But I think I don't have to do that this evening. We're reading from the prayers of Lord Brahma. This is Canto 10, Chapter 14. And we've covered the first 4 verses. And this evening we'll conclude verse 5 and begin verse 6. Brahma is the original preceptor of our Sampradaya, and naturally he's going to speak on essences, high-level essences of our teachings, the teachings of how to know Krishna, because the beginning session, verse, he's offering his obeisances, naturally, describing the form of Krishna, and wishing to attain Krishna. Now, these questions have come up. He's already received the Chaturshloki verses. He has received all the knowledge of the Vedas. He's spoken Brahma Samhita. He's already complete. Now, Krishna has made an arrangement for him to be more complete. More complete. He's recognizing the very special position of attaining Krishna's association in Vrindavan, because that's where they are. And the fact that Krishna's original form, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna in Vrindavan, is the source of everything, the source of all avatars. He just has experienced that. So the goal is his aspiration is to attain, this word is being used again and again, to attain Krishna. And attain Krishna in a manner that the Brijbasis have attained Krishna. And that's his aspiration. He's then, after describing the form of Krishna, he's described the attributes, qualities, etc. of Krishna. And then he's describing the means to achieve that, a relationship with Krishna. And the emphasis goes on the do and the do not. The do is primary. That's dedication, body, mind, and words to the topics of Krishna. And leaving aside udapasya, to cast away speculative tendency. That's the very important verse we spent some time on. That was verse 3. Celebrated verse, quoted often again and again, Jnane prayasa udapasya namanta eva. Then verse 4 describes if persons leave aside, do it the other way around, if they udapasya, if they abandon bhakti and take to gyan, they can't get self-realization, and all they get is hard labor, using the metaphor of thrashing chaff to get wheat that's already been removed. There's no wheat left. It's just thrashing. They don't get any benefit. Then, interesting, this text 5, he speaks of the yogis achieving devotional service. So, there's bhakti, there's gyan, now here's yoga. Okay, like Ashtanga Yoga. Translation text 5. O Almighty Lord, in the past many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service by, he lists 3 things: offering all their endeavors unto you, and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. Through such devotional service, 3, that perfected by the processes of hearing and chanting about you. Central again in the yoga process, because Gyanis, they also hear and chant the Upanishads, but not the form, qualities, pastimes, activities celebrated by Vaishnava literature. So they hear and chant other things, and they don't get self-realization. They certainly can't understand, that's expressed, certainly can't understand the personal feature of the absolute truth. So now here's yogis, so they're also dedicated, perfecting themselves by hearing and chanting about Krishna. And by that type of devotional service, they came to understand you, O Infallible One, and could easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. How nice. Not just get liberation, but achieve Krishna's abode. Here's 2 commentaries. Sanatana Goswami writes, this bhakti process is not just words, but was practiced and realized by many in the past. O Lord with unlimited glories, Bhuman, this is a suitable result for bhakti dedicated to you. Even liberated persons, yoginaha, by hearing and glorifying your topics, te kato panitaya, by glorifying your topics, they offered all their activities unto you. Here's a doubt. Bhakti is difficult, since it allows one to attain the supreme goal. To answer that doubt, it can be done by purification, upanitaya, through hearing and glorifying you, or by topics concerning you, which bring about glorification. Those topics are most excellent. Note, there's a big emphasis on the translation word is topics, kata, Hari Kata, Krishna Kata. Name, form, qualities, pastimes, kata. O Lord, you do not fail to give the desired results by performance of bhakti. By bhakti, the yogis associate with you. They will attain the outstanding place, Vaikuntha, or prema param gatim. Understanding, it is the highest result. That's nice. The yogis, we don't often hear this from Prabhupada's writings in the Bhagavatam, these encouraging words about yogis, but yogis, through association of devotees, can connect that elevation they receive by the yoga process to achieve the topmost perfection. And what's being said here in this verse is confirmed or said, the same thing is said by Kapila Dev in Sankhya. Sankhya? No idea, right? Sankhya is a philosophy. Sankhya philosophy is understanding matter and spirit. Like, there are verses in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm sure you're aware of some of those verses. Chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita, the first half of chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita is Sankhya. Here's matter, here's spirit, we belong to the category of spirit. That's Sankhya. Then it's expanded a little bit, chapter 7. Here's 8 material elements. Aside from that, there's the soul, Paraprakriti. That's Sankhya, matter and spirit. Chapter 13, matter and spirit. Sankhya is a study of the distinction between the two and reaching the conclusion that we belong to the category of spirit. Now in Canto 3, Kapila Dev, Lord Kapila Dev, taught to Devahuti, his mother, Sankhya philosophy really heavy, really detailed, mind-boggling details. And the conclusion of that Sankhya is meditation, like yoga, Ashtanga yoga, because this is he appears during the Satya Yuga. And the means to achieve perfection during Satya Yuga is meditation, right? Dhyayate, meditation. So Sankhya precedes meditation. Meditation on what? That category of spirit. And the meditation, how do you achieve perfection? Just by meditation. It's moving forward to meditate upon the personality of Godhead and engage in service in your life's activity to the personality of Godhead. Very similar to what's being described here. That's because perfection means through bhakti, not just meditation, but meditation leading to bhakti. That's what's described here. And the last commentary, very short, on this verse is from Jiva Goswami's Krama Sandarbha, which reads, O Lord, possessing unlimited glory, O Lord, who does not fail his devotee, many yogis in the past offering their activities to you, and developing realization through devotional activities, the hearing and chanting activities, easily attained your association. And attaining your association, he's more specific in a moment. Samipya. By offering their prescribed duties and performing bhakti with taste for hearing topics of the Lord, they realized Atma and then Bhagavan. Finally, they attained Samipya, along with knowledge. Samipya, there's 5 kinds of liberation. Then the one that most people know about, or is popular, is merging, becoming one with, called Sayuja. Become one with the Supreme. Sayuja. And there's 4 others that are Vaishnava liberations. Sayuja is not a Vaishnava liberation. It's a stop your devotional service and just merge with the Brahman effulgence. Sayuja. So Samipya is one of those additional 4. And Samipya means having equal association with the Lord. Having opulences like the Lord, having a form like the Lord, Sarupya, Salokya, residing on the planet of the Lord. And here, so this is Samipya. So Jiva Goswami is writing, I'll do it again. By this process described in verse 5, they control their mind and senses through the yoga process, very similar to what's described in Kapila Dev's teachings. First, what's what? Matter and spirit. Absorption in spirit. Controlling the mind and senses, which is matter, to get to the higher place of consciousness. Absorption in spirit. The Atma, and then Paramatma. And then achieving the abode of the Lord in his association. It's not usual. When most people that take yoga classes, that's not what they're up to. But there are yogis that have achieved that. That's what this verse is saying. And next is text 6. And this is an interesting one. Translation for text 6. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal Supreme. Then it gives a method. By cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. So, but they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions. Not easy. And all attachment to material sense objects. Attachment to. So there's the conceptual and there's the attachment. Concepts of material distinctions and attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. This is a little unusual, but it's part of his prayer, so we'll discuss. Here's the BBT purport. It is difficult for conditioned souls to understand all the transcendental features of the Supreme Lord, as confirmed in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1-11. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Do you know that verse from the Bhagavatam? Vedanta Tattva Vidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam. You know the verse? Okay, good. Checking. The transcendental existence of God is understood progressively as Brahmeti, the impersonal effulgence, Paramatmeti, the localized super soul in one's heart, and finally the Supreme Personality of Godhead, existing in his eternal abode. Lord Krishna's transcendental existence is beyond the qualities of material nature. Thus, here the Lord is referred to as agunasya, without material qualities. Paragraph. Even by practicing yoga or engaging in advanced philosophical speculation, one will find it very difficult to understand clearly the transcendental existence beyond the modes of material nature. And these processes are virtually useless for understanding the Lord's own unlimited transcendental qualities, which are far beyond the impersonal conception of the spiritual existence. Only by the mercy of the pure devotees of the Lord, or by associating with the Lord himself, can one begin the process of realizing the personal feature of God, a process that culminates in pure Krishna consciousness, the final and supreme perfection of life, the final and supreme perfection of knowledge. And that's as far as we're going to go this evening. The topic came up this morning, and this verse is even more on the topic than what we were discussing this morning. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12 is devotional service. So the first question in chapter 12, Arjuna asks, basically for the third time, which do you consider to be better? Worship of your personal or impersonal feature? Very direct question. Krishna says, worship my personal feature is better. And then in verse 5, it's right down on this topic. Klesho dikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Klesha means like it hurts. It's miserable. It's miseries, kleshas. Klesho dikataras tesham avyakta asakta. Those who are asakta, attached to the avyakta, to the unmanifest impersonal feature. Klesha. Very difficult. The translation reads, Bhagavad Gita 12:5, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. Klesha. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied, and that's everybody, we're embodied. But for the embodied, what this verse is saying, this is 201 version of 101. It's the same teaching as Krishna speaking to Arjuna. Here's Brahma speaking in the Bhagavatam. To get to that realization, there's three particular methods. There are aspects of this method. Cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. So there are yogis that try to do that. There are philosophers that may also try to do that. But the intention or the element is cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. And to achieve that, there's two other cofactors: purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions. Well, that's a nice notion, but for those who are embodied, how are you going to do that? Because that's the conceptions. Conceptions are within the mind. The mind carries different conceptions, just like air carries aroma. This is one of the things that the mind does. It carries conceptions. I mean, philosophies and philosophers really go to town with this. Like, Socrates and Plato. Did you study that in school yet, Socrates and Plato?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in their philosophy, one of the things is I don't want to go too far afield, but to have even a concept of something to which you give a name. So here's a chair. And supposing somebody doesn't know what a chair is. I mean, there's a nice little example. A cricket bat. And the first time I saw a cricket bat, I didn't know what it was. I mean, you grew up in India, or you're born. Your parents are from India, so you know what cricket is. But those of us that, and sometimes I, see cricket games on here and there. I don't watch them because I don't understand it at all. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know the rules of the game. It's like, I don't get it.
I don't either.
You don't either? Oh, okay. Make two of us then. So, but they yell and yay. When you I don't know what they're yelling about. It's part of philosophy to say that. This is one of Plato's things. Before there was a chair, there was an idea of chair. Now, where did even the idea of chair come from before there was the chair? It's like long, writing. Inductively, he's reasoning, there must be a realm, an absolute realm, before there was the idea of chairs. So it's inductively reasoning, there's a realm of absolutes. It's not a proof. But from the realm of absolutes comes the idea chair, comes the chair, comes the name. And if you don't recognize what a chair is, you can see an object and not know what it is. You don't have a name for it because the name is just something you pin on something that's in the mind. And something that's in the mind comes from somewhere. So anyway, this is philosophy. How do you cleanse the mind from all sense of conceptions of material distinctions? Like a chair is something you sit on, and water is something you drink, and just like lose all those conceptions of material distinctions. What's that like? Wow. It's like you become a baby again. You don't know what goes in your mouth and what goes on your head, and you don't make any material distinctions. Purifying this mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions. Get out a big eraser or a whiteout or the delete button or something, and what do you have left? Like, just space with nothing in it. Wow. And all attachment to material sense objects. To achieve this cultivation of direct perception of the self within the heart. So now, Lord Brahma is describing this is the gateway for realizing the impersonal feature within their heart. So it tells us that's one of the results of the yogis that meditate on Supersoul, or Gyanis that try to understand, because there's a verse in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, by taking help of the intelligence, one can conclude there is Supersoul. It's a very interesting verse and purport. So whether it's by cultivation of knowledge or the cultivation of yoga, one can potentially, not easy, very difficult, but one can realize the impersonal feature. And that's back chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. Klesho dikkatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam. For those who are embodied, it's very difficult. Here's some of the details why it's difficult. No conceptions, completely wiped out. No conceptions of material distinctions. It's hard to even consider what that is. What to speak of achieve it. And in that condition, then you meditate on the soul and super soul within the heart, because that's not a material distinction. That's important, because the super soul doesn't have material distinctions, and that's what's in the purport here. Agunasya, without material qualities. So what's that has no material qualities? Well, that's the impersonal feature, or it's the form of Krishna has no material qualities, but one isn't going to get access to that except through bhakti. So if you don't have bhakti and you want to get somewhere in the spiritual dimension, that leaves you with this other one. Very difficult. But here's how it's done. I'll read this of the verse again. Non-devotees, however, so yogis can achieve going back to Godhead, progressively, step by step. Non-devotees, however, because they connect with the bhakti process, non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. Whew. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. Two things. In the discussion, the commentaries we're going to be reading tomorrow, something that really helps a lot helps me a lot, is a statement by Jiva Goswami, where he's saying that Brahman is here considered to be a quality of the Lord, not with material quality, but a quality. And the reason for mentioning that is it's the Sanskrit word mahima. Mahima is in the verse. So mahima means the greatest. Mahima. But Brahman also means the greatest. And specifically, there's Krishna's form that's the greatest, and there's the impersonal that's the greatest. And they can't realize the personal feature without bhakti, and so what are they going to realize? The impersonal feature. But it's the Mahima it's one of his glories. Mahima. It's not the greatest of his glories, but it's one of his Mahimas. It's his impersonal feature. They may. And then the other I find interesting aspect of this is the impersonal feature manifests itself to them. It's something like repeatedly the residents of Vrindavan are being appreciated as being given a particular type of prema. Now they have the qualification for that particular type of prema. That is, they're not really caring for they've attained a stage of attachment to Krishna where his opulence feature just is not of interest to them. The sweetness feature is of interest to them. And because of that, Krishna grants them a certain kind of prema, braja prema. Or even when he shows them his opulences, they don't get it. It's just water off a duck's back that doesn't go anywhere. They see something else because their prema is so strong, their braja prema is so strong. And it's a gift from Krishna. Or there's a discussion even to see Krishna's form by the non-devotees. It's by Krishna's mercy one can see his form. And otherwise, when he withdraws his form, he can't be seen. So even when Kamsa and the washerman and different, demons see Krishna, they're seeing Krishna because he extends some mercy. Otherwise, he can't be seen. Similarly, here is by Krishna's mercy that he may manifest his impersonal mahima to those that want it. But they have to have some qualification, and it's very difficult, very severe, very unnatural. But it can be experienced by them, not as personal feature, but the impersonal feature. He can award that to them. The last sentence, only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. Well, it doesn't just manifest itself, it's directed by Krishna to manifest itself. His position as the supreme controller doesn't get lost in the shuffle somewhere. By his mercy, those that really want it, he reciprocates. And just one other point, because there was this doubt, well, wait a minute, it's by the bhakti process that one can realize this most difficult thing. So the bhakti process should be difficult, no? Since it gives the highest thing, shouldn't it be difficult? We read that. Where is it? Yeah. It can be done by purification, through hearing and glorifying you, or by topics concerning you which bring about glorification. Those topics are most excellent. That means the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's topics. And engaging with Srimad Bhagavatam is hearing, describing, remembering, picturing in your mind, like the very beginning verse, the form of Krishna. He's seeing Krishna's form. We're not seeing Krishna's form. But through his words, one can have an image of Krishna's form through sound within the mind. Although we're far away from seeing Krishna. That the sound vibration is very merciful, very powerful. Or these topics are most excellent. And this is Bhagavad Dharma. It's what we do, Bhagavad Dharma. With a lot of emphasis on hearing and chanting. That delivers the fullness of anything that anybody ever did in any one of the previous ages that there's no way we could do. I mean, can you redo the austerities that Dhruva did? No way. Absolutely no way. But the attainment that we receive just from doing what we're doing, topics that are most excellent in hearing and describing and trying to understand them and remembering them and so forth, all that perfection can come. That's what Bhagavad Dharma process says. And one who's faithful and takes it up in that way can be protected from the perils of Kali Yuga and go beyond all the limitations that are circumstances, the shortened life and less compassion and all those things that are part of Kali Yuga, we get on the other side of. Pretty amazing. How simple. The regard, something we've been discussing in our morning classes. It's not just hearing or reading or studying or something. It's the mood of bhakti. It's aspiring for and having that mood of bhakti awakened. And so that is to say, it's the intention of making our Krishna connection again, restoring that Krishna connection. With that intention, then these activities bear spirit, the full fruit. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. I like Brahma's prayers. We're following protocols. I hope you don't mind. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So in Canto 2, we read that Krishna, he likes Brahma a lot. He's one of his favorites because he creates the living entities. He gives a chance for them to go back to Godhead.
Yeah.
Now Krishna also is partial and he likes devotees or Vaishnavas. So does that mean he is partial for the Vaishnava mothers who give birth to the living entities and serve as a purpose to go back to Godhead?
Well, I neither from scripture nor through reason does that conclusion make sense. I've not heard it from scripture because mothers can't be mothers without fathers. So, however, many times there is a description that Mother Yasoda is more fortunate than Nanda. And both Yasoda and Nanda are more fortunate than Vasudeva and Devaki. But it's not specific to the partiality of devotees that Krishna shows more mercy to Mother Yasoda than to Nanda. It's that compared to Vasudeva and Devaki, they were with Krishna during his childhood pastimes, and Vasudeva and Devaki were not for 12 years. So more mercy over there than over here. And between the two, Yashoda was with Krishna all the time. Vasudeva, or Nanda, was off taking care of the cows and doing what kings do, taking care of the citizens and everything. So she was most fortunate. But that had to do with the kind of mercy that she received. But then it sometimes goes the other way. The cowherd boys, are with Krishna all day long. And Mother Yasoda's back in Vrindavan in anxiety. So the cowherd boys are more fortunate. So they're all superlatively fortunate. So it's specific to your question about mothers, because Vaishnavas are dear to the Lord, and if mothers who are the mothers of Vaishnavas' children, are they more dear to Krishna than others? They get a lot of mercy by being in intimate association with their Vaishnava children. Well, dad's off in the office dealing with, materialistic people. They get a lot of mercy. But then, serving Krishna in any way is a manifestation of mercy. How's that?
Thank you, Maharaj. I also had another question.
Okay.
So there are innumerable universes,
There are millions.
millions of universes, and there is Brahma in every universe that
Yes,
Krishna
different
creates.
Brahma.
Is that again because is Krishna just replicating the model, or is it because he
He's
likes
replicating
Brahma?
the model. Someone has to do the service, and so different souls in different universes are given the opportunity to do that service. And that's service for Krishna. Brahma is one of them. So different. Taking a post. It's clear?
And one last.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brahma Sampradaya. So when we have Brahma as our spiritual master, what or why did we need to have the other four Sampradayas? Is there a specific reason to it, or?
You want to know why there's four, or you want there has to be more than one?
Yeah, if Brahma is there, if we have Brahma Sampradaya.
Why do we have more than one?
Yeah.
That's what you want to know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you have to, but there are. Is there some advantage to having four instead of one? My understanding is this: there's variations on the theme of what each Vaishnava Sampradaya emphasizes. And that variety of emphasis may be helpful for persons who have this or that or the other disposition. Now that's theoretical, because Madhva lived in a certain place and Ramanuja lived in another place, and the different acharyas lived in, Vishnu Swami lived in it. So person from that area are strongly influenced by the person who lived in their place. Sri Vaishnava is very, very strong in a certain section of South India. Madhva is in a certain section of another section of South India. So one might, your question might have if there was only one, then Madhva would be everywhere. And if it was, or Sri Sampradaya, then, that teaching would be everywhere. So part of the answer is mercy. Variegatedness attracts different hearts. Another is these principal persons appeared in different geographic locations and made a particular emphasis, like they gave, and so that added to the abundance of Vaishnavism in different geographic locations. And then the continuation of those over generations also, continued the mercy. It's not hitting the nail on the head. Your question is a unique question. Diversity is there because diversity is nice. And it adds abundance and it adds variety. And it could be just one, but it adds abundance and spreading. And some variety. Even within one sampradaya, I was asking a question of a Sri Vaishnava scholar. Someone was asking on my behalf. And even he had to say, yeah, I forget the Sanskrit term, that the North Indian, the North Ramanujas and the South Ramanujas, I forget the term. But, even within Ramanuja or Sri Sampradaya, there's two distinctions. There are things that are similar, there are things that are different. So why not just have one? Well, somebody disagreed somewhere along the line. And so there's two. But they share essences of rituals and procedures, and Narayana is supreme and things like that. Diversity is fine, as long as the essence is there.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, in this class you said, if you associate with a pure devotee, you will get the realization you will get realization of personal features of personality of Godhead.
Well, did I say that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that. Because let's say Prabhupada was on the planet, how many people got his association? And how many people of those that got his association understood?
Yeah, that was my question. Okay.
It's not just association, but, plus, to receive it fully. Through association, one can go further.
Okay.
It's mercy. And then, mercy can be, you can say no thanks. Or make offense. Or, there can be different responses to mercy.
I have another question. You are talking about the 5 kinds of liberation. Sahaja, one of them is
Yes.
Sahaja liberation. In the Bhagavad Gita, we hear that all demigods are different limbs of Krishna, right? So
Demigods are different names of Krishna.
different limbs of
Limbs of Krishna.
limbs of Krishna. So does it mean that demigods have they get a Sahaja Mukti at the
No,
end?
no.
How to
They're
understand?
different limbs of the universal form.
Okay.
They're not different limbs of the original form.
Okay.
And the universal form is another, mystery. There's multiple ways of describing the same thing. Multiple ways of describing the universal form. Multiple. Mind-boggling. Not an easy form of Krishna to understand. But one of them is, the arms and the legs and the this and the that. She wants some service too. Go ahead.
This question is from Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, Lingaraja Prabhu Sunita Mata's sister-in-law. Does Arjuna know the supremacy of the Lord before seeing the Lord's universal form or four-handed Vishnu form?
Does who see?
Arjuna,
Does he know what?
the supremacy of Krishna before he sees.
Of course. But he lapsed into forgetfulness. So he had to be reminded. So he oh yeah. You're the Supreme. He's Krishna's eternal associate. He's not like one of us. He's not a sadhaka. He's a perfected soul. But he became covered like us, or forgetfulness, not even like us, but forgetful for purposes of Krishna.
And this question is from Radhika Kasturi Mataji. How can we understand Krishna's reaction to Brahma's prayers?
There's a rasa answer, and the rasa answer was, I'm going to get back with the cowherd boys. And in a dharma perspective, he didn't chastise him. He could have, but he didn't, because what he did was offensive. But he didn't chastise him. He didn't in any way punish him. His response, of course, before the prayers, was he showed him what he was wanting to know or to understand or to see, the limit of Krishna's opulences. And more than that, he showed his original form, and showed his original form is the original form by the method that he used. So his prayers are just confirming what was shown. So he's mirroring back, or through his words, his prayers, indicating what he has understood and glorifying the bhakti process. So he's appreciated Brahma's words. But we should understand that more attractive to Krishna than the choicest prayers of the Vedas or Brahma or the demigods or anybody or anything, the most attractive to Krishna is the love of the residents of Vrindavan. That's how we should understand his response, his reaction, or how he interacts with his prayers.
This question is from Udayananda Prabhu. Any reason why Brahma Samhita is recommended to be recited during Brahma Muhurta?
Well, I don't know that it's recommended to be recited during Brahma Muhurta. I don't know where you heard that. Anything you want to do that's spiritual, doing it during Brahma Muhurta is fantastic. You better have a good Brahma Muhurta hour. Or 48 minutes.
This question is from Govinda Mohini Mataji. During our Srimad Bhagavatam reading, this discussion came up regarding Virat Rupa and Vishwarupa, universal form. Can you please help us understand if they're different or the same?
They are the same, but as I said, there are different. Vishwarupa and Virat Rupa are the same. The universal form is the same. They're just different nomenclature for the same thing. It's 100% interchangeable nomenclature. Now, what is it? There's multiple ways of describing what it is. But that's not a question. Is it? Kind of. Well, let's take three. Number one of the three is Universal Form Chapter 11, Bhagavad Gita. 2, the Universal Form Chapter, Canto 2, Chapter 1. 3, Canto 5, chapters 16 through whatever it is, 23, something like that. They're very different. And it's all the universal form. And there's another one in, I forget where. It described the universal form in a different way. So it's the same entity, being perceived from, a different vantage point. It's, it not the same, but it's a little bit like the elephant, the ear of the elephant, the trunk of the blind man, trying to understand what is an elephant. We're like the blind man trying to understand the universal form. It looks like this, it looks like that. No, so it's that over there. No, it's all those things. So what is the universal form is mind-boggling. It's not easy, let's say, it's not easy to understand. But in the very beginning of a Vedic cosmology section of the 5th canto, at the very beginning and at the very end, it says, the universal form is the cosmos, Vedic cosmology, and then it describes it in different ways. That's not what you read in chapter 11 Bhagavad Gita. It's the same universal form. It's Vedic it's a cosmology. Whew.
This question is again from Radhika Kasturi Mataji. How can the demigods see the pastimes of Krishna? Sometimes they put flowers to show their love. In that case, aren't they fortunate than the humans who cannot see the Lord?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How? They can't enter into Krishna's pastimes, but they can observe. They're up there, it says in the sky somewhere, observing, and when Krishna kills Aghasura, oh, fantastic. And so because they appeal to Krishna to appear and destroy the demons. And the final section, just before Krishna's departure from Dwarka, they come and speak to Krishna. You fulfilled your promise. Now you may return to the spiritual world. So they can see, but they can't enter. They cannot participate in his pastimes. There's a real nice commentary in the Song of the Gopis chapter when the gopis are pacifying Mother Yasoda. She's in big anxiety. Krishna's late. Mothers know about this stuff. Oh, Krishna's late. So whether they're speaking to her or they just intuitively know her heart, they say, well, just before coming back, they went to take bath. They could have clairvoyance, or they have a television in their heart. They could see Krishna went to take bath in the river Jamuna, and then afterwards they were playing together with the boys on the sand and the banks of the river Jamuna. And as they were going back, the demigods came at the end of Krishna's days, just astonished, and they were offering their respects to Krishna. The gopis saying, the young gopis saying to Mother Yasoda. So, he's been blessed by you be happy. He'll be back soon. Demigods are offering their blessings to Krishna. So they see his pastimes. But, they're certainly to see Krishna's pastimes. What would you give to be able to see Krishna's pastimes? They're very fortunate.
This question is from Girivaradhari Prabhu. Oh, sorry, Shriya Mataji. Is Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga, explaining Sankhya Yoga as well? As I understand, mostly in Satya Yuga, Kardama Muni Dhruva Maharaj attained Lord with Sankhya only.
No.
Is it correct understanding?
No. They did not Sankhya only, because they achieved the Lord through the means for the age, and that's meditation. But their meditation was not devoid of Sankhya. They knew what was matter and spirit. Sankhya, just, you can ask, she'll be able to tell you. Sankhya means to understand matter and spirit. So they knew matter and spirit. But their emphasis was not just knowing matter and spirit. It was absorption and meditation on the spirit, and not just spirit, supreme spirit. And then so Krishna came, Vishnu came, and so it gave him his association. gave them his association. Next.
This question is from Satyavrata Prabhu. Regarding bhakti, we see that we are following many rules and regulations while serving deities. However, we see here that many people deal with their deities without any rules. What is important? Is it rules or feelings or both?
Both. If you have feelings, you follow the rules. But it's not just, the more rules you follow, the better your feelings are or something. It's a better display of your feelings. There's essences, and you stay with essences. And some persons have affinity for details, and that's fine. Some people are more into essences, and that's fine. But there's, even within the essences, there's rules we follow. Especially with deity worship, until you become, a Bhava Bhakta, then you can consider something else.
This question is from Sashimukhi Mataji. Krishna knows that we are less intelligent to understand him. Still, Krishna showed his universal form with high complexity to understand. At the same time, he treats everyone equal. Can you please explain how I can understand this complexity?
I don't see any difficulty. So you better make your difficulty more clear, because I don't see the difficulty. If he shows his universal form, that's mercy. He doesn't have to show his universal form. He does because there are persons who see it. He showed to Mother Yasoda, and the description of the universal form that he showed to Mother Yasoda is very different than what he showed to Arjuna. So, but it's not complexity. It's mercy. And how Mother Yasoda responded and how Arjuna responded are very different, because of their bhakti is very different. It's not complex. I don't see the complexity. It's just showing his kindness in different ways to different individuals.
There's one more question from Govinda Mohini Mataji. One more clarification. How to understand the universal form Arjuna saw and the universal form described in second canto?
You read it carefully, that's how you understand it. And, as your devotion increases, you'll understand it even better. Until then, it'll be perplexing. It says this here, it says that there, what's going on? That's the place you'll be in for a while. Just read it, and when read it again, and read it again, and read it again, and read it again. And slowly it'll start to, the picture will start to be clear. But, I do have a desire one day to discuss that topic, but there's lots of other things in between, when that's going to happen and now. For me, it's an important topic because of the TOVP. Temple of Vedic Planetarium. You're familiar, right? No? In Mayapur, there's a new temple coming up. And it's called the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And the central part is Radha Madhava and their altar. Over here is the disciplic succession, then Panchatattva, then Radha Madhava. Through the Acharyas, you approach Lord Chaitanya. Through Lord Chaitanya, you approach Radha Krishna. So that's the main temple. But it's not called Radha Madhava Temple. It's called the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, because over here, another dome is a planetarium. Planetarium is a three-dimensional moving depiction of Vedic cosmology. And that's the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. So it's depicting the structure of the universe as given in the Vedas, it's particularly the 5th canto, but so many other places. So when that appears, the devotee is going to be asked, what's this and what's that and what's the other thing? And we're going to scratch our heads and say, duh. I don't know, it's just nice, isn't it? So, it's going to be, it is a difficult subject matter to understand and explain. I've been having, over the past, it's since the pandemic started, everything kind of got shifted over to Krishna Lila. But before that, for maybe 6 months, I was having 2-3 times a week exchanges with Antar, who is in charge of the Vedic Planetarium. He knows his stuff. And over there is another devotee, a Stanford University PhD graduate that spent 3 years studying the Bhagavatam and the Vedic cosmology and Sankhya philosophy. And so we exchanges with that devotee. And it's important. It's brain teasing because the conceptions are conceptions we're used to. Anyway, I feel it's important for devotees to be able to have at least a basic sense of Vedic cosmology because the Temple of Vedic Planetarium is depicting it. And it's an essential part of the Bhagavatam. What was that? We just read something this morning. Persons that don't want to hear about my personal feature and my process of creation and maintenance of the universe. Something like that. Do you recall?
I remember you speaking.
Okay. But, Krishna was saying, scriptures that doesn't include this, that's not really what scripture is. So, it's important, in other words. The Virat Rupa shows up here and there and there and there and there. So, it's important. And it's not easy to understand, although it's important. When the end of the 1st canto, there's 2 questions given to Shukadeva Goswami by Maharaj Parikshit. What's the duty of a man who is about to die? And what's that subject matter that one should always hear, chant, and remember? Those are his 2 questions. And the first 3 chapters of Canto 2 are a response to those 2 questions. And then there's more questions following those 2 questions. But it starts with the universal form. A whole chapter on the universal form. A whole chapter. Whew. It's important. It's not easy to understand. The description there is like, Govinda Mohini's question. It's very different than. And how do you understand what it is and how do you understand the difference? It's not easy. Just keep reading it. And, pray a lot. Okay. More?
This is from Sri Devi Mataji. Before the birth of Krishna, all the demigods come together to offer prayers.
Right.
Do the demigods talk to each other often?
I don't know. It seems like they do. Not just when they offer prayers. I'm thinking of when Hanuman got smashed with a thunderbolt of Indra, they all got together and said, what are we going to do here? Because the flow of air in the universe is stopped because Vayu is upset. So they talk to each other.
So the question after that is, if they would have talked after Brahma is Brahma offended Krishna, others can be careful. Later in the chapters, again, Indra is offending Krishna and Varuna is kidnapping Nanda Maharaj. Basically, why
The
are they
Varuna
not-
didn't do it. His guys did it. His assistants. He didn't do it. He didn't send them. They just did it. So don't draw too many conclusions, please. That's it?
Two more questions are there, Guruji, but it is the screen, something happened to the screen. That's it. Krishna.
You have to know
so
what button to push. Go ahead.
Radhika Kasturi Mataji's question again. As a follow-up, was Brahma okay to Krishna's reaction? And
Yes.
is that why he hankered to be a Brajavasi?
No, that's not why. That his hankering came before Krishna's reaction. He understood that the exaltedness of the residents of Vrindavan. We'll see when we get there. Go ahead and read the whole chapter and you get the answer to your question. He's fine. He loves Krishna.
This is the last question. Amara Mataji's question. Can one understand how are they mixing jnana and karma with the bhakti they want to offer? Because it could be gross or subtle. So can the person who is mixing jnana and karma with bhakti, can they understand that they're mixing? Because it could be subtle.
That's a very theoretical question. They could understand all kinds of possible things. I don't, do you know what she's getting at? If someone's in mixed devotion, are they aware that they're in mixed devotion? Is that what she's asking?
Yeah, because it,
Well, generally, no. I mean, some people may, but generally, no. Generally, they think I'm fine. I'm okay. You're okay. That's generally what's going on. But some people understand I'm not there yet, and because I have this affinity for something that's in the mixture department. But so they can be either not know or they know. That's it. Prabhupada ki jai.